I always wake up at 6, not out of necessity, out of habit. The old hallway clock runs 2 minutes late, but I trust the sound of the kettles more than any clock hands. When the water begins to whisper, I know the day is calling my name. Grandma, you make the coffee too strong. Her voice, still so vivid in my memory, fills the kitchen even now. Deborah, my daughter, would come in from the street with her coat unbuttoned and lipstick half gone. She worked like crazy, as if life were a race with an invisible finish line. Who told you to stay up all night at the office? I'd tease, pretending to scold. Who told you to make the best coffee in the neighborhood? She'd laugh, turning off the stove. That's how it went for years. Me raising Deborah, and later the two of us raising Livia, our little one orbiting between my dish towels and her mother's contracts. A house lived in by two women who learned to become three. I was the compass, Deborah the engine, and Livia the future. I used to believe love was enough. I was wrong. I want you to know that I'm relieved to finally share my story. But this channel needs your support to keep bringing more stories like this one. Please, subscribe. It is really important. Deborah insisted on making the Christmas tree with scissors and glue, even when she could afford to buy the biggest one in the store. Mom, I don't want my daughter to grow up buying memories. I want her to make them. Livia, 6 years old, cut crooked stars and asked me for tape as if she were asking for treasure. Stick it here, Grandma, and here too. At this rate, we'll end up wrapping the whole house, girl. Even better. Then the house can't get away from us. I still keep one of those stars inside a cookbook. The paper has yellowed, but the memory still shines where it matters. Some promises we seal without realizing it, and it's precisely because we don't realize it that they hurt the most when they're broken. It was in a blue note that Deborah gave me, the kind of news that didn't sound like news at all. Mom, if I'm ever gone, take care of my daughter the way you always took care of me. I love you. She left the note on the fridge door, held by a fish-shaped magnet. I read it, laughed, and scolded her. Deborah, what nonsense is this? A contract with life, Mom. I feel at peace when I write things down. Good grief, girl. That's just asking for trouble, or warding it off. You never know. That day, I didn't realize I was signing a contract with fate. The night smelled like medicine when the phone rang. 3:17 a.m. Mrs. Eileen, this is the hospital. The word hospital has a weight that falls into your hands before it reaches your heart. Deborah had always been all health and urgency, but that day, urgency won. An aneurysm, they said. Medical words sound clean, but they stain your whole world. I remember the white hallway, the sheet folded like a flag after a hymn. I remember holding a hand that no longer held mine back. And most of all, I remember thinking of Livia. How do you tell a child that the ground can disappear, and that she still has to keep walking? Grandma, Livia's small voice from the doorway. Come here, sweetheart. Is Mommy going to? She's just going to sleep a little longer. We'll take care of her, in our dreams. I lied to buy time. And I did. Sometimes, compassion is made of gentle lies. Some loves end suddenly. Others begin out of necessity. My love for Livia became both. After the funeral, the house felt the size of a sigh. I'd look at the cups and swear they were quietly crying. Deborah's coat stayed hanging on the chair for weeks, as if she'd walk in late for coffee any minute. At 15, Livia wanted to go back to school 2 days later. It's easier when I'm busy, Grandma, I know. Emptiness makes noise. Are you going back to teaching? I've already taught every lesson I needed to. Now I'm going to learn how to be your home. She fell into my arms like someone stepping into their own room. School, the crowded bus, the hallway smell, the sound of laughter, everything was a lesson in how to keep going. Courage sounds like a girl's voice when she decides to grow up too soon. Months later, our family lawyer, Mr. Adam, came to the house, a man in a gray suit and glasses that couldn't quite hide his kindness. Mrs. Eileen, your daughter left everything very organized. He explained calmly. The business, the properties, the accounts, all of it would be held for Livia until she turned 26. There were clauses, funds, reserves. I listened as if hearing a foreign language. And me? I asked, embarrassed. Your daughter was very clear. She ensured you would have lifetime residence in the main house and a monthly allowance for comfort and health. It's all here. Livia squeezed my hand. Grandma, Mom, really thought of everything. She did. And for the first time, I allowed myself to breathe without guilt. I placed my piece inside a safe called 26 years, I never imagined it would be broken open from the inside. The years went by like buses you don't catch fast, noisy, and headed somewhere you'll never know. I folded sheets, made grocery lists, kept track of medication schedules. Livia went to college, got an internship, won awards I can't even pronounce. Grandma, I presented the report all by myself today. By yourself, how? Without freezing. And why didn't you freeze? Because before I started, I pictured you sitting in the front row. I became that girl's private audience, and sometimes her shield. When a rude boyfriend raised his voice, I banged my plate on the table. When an unfair boss ignored her email, I taught her how to insist with class. When she cried over a rent increase, I showed her how to cut unnecessary expenses. And when she lost her patience with me because I forgot the pan on the stove, I let her, because grandmothers and granddaughters need to learn how to disagree too. Love can endure small offenses. Respect cannot survive long cracks. 26 came like winter does, announced, yet still unexpected. Mr. Adam called early, today at 3 p.m., at the office. All right, just legal formalities. Before leaving, I packed my purse with my ID, a bottle of perfume, and a mint, because dignity starts with your breath, as my mother used to say. In the elevator, Livia was checking her phone, and I asked, nervous, no, excited, like I'm finally getting the keys to my own house after years of renting. It's your house. It always has been. It's our house, Grandma. She kissed my forehead, and I believed her. Sometimes the key that opens the future also unlocks the worst in the present. Mr. Adams' office had walls lined with books that no one really reads, only consults. The secretary greeted us like we were important people. I wasn't used to being important people. Signatures, notarizations, explanations, Adam repeated, slowly. The protective clauses Deborah had left behind. He talked about the lifetime fund, the right to residence. Livia nodded, professional, like someone who already managed empires in her spare time. If you have any questions, call me, said Adam, shaking our hands. Doctor, the house stays in my name, I asked. The final ownership is Livia S., as your daughter determined, but there are restrictions. Nothing can change without your consent, so I can stay there until you wish. We left with a folder and 2 smiles. On the sidewalk, the sun hit the building windows as if applauding our afternoon. We had lunch at a simple restaurant. Livia ordered pasta. I ordered soup. My dentures get temperamental when I'm emotional. It was during that lunch that I first saw a shadow in my granddaughter's eyes, the same shadow I once ignored. It didn't take long for a name to start showing up in our living room. Steve. Livia spoke of him with her body as much as with her mouth, the way she fixed her hair, looked at her phone, laughed when nothing was funny. He's smart, Grandma. He understands numbers. Understanding numbers is easy. Understanding people is the hard part. Jealous, experienced. I don't know when my love started showing up in her messages. I just know that, little by little, Livia's priorities started shifting schedules. Dinners became meetings. Sundays turned into appointments. And the house grew quieter than it should have. Every abyss begins with an innocent step. It happened at the grocery store. I was trying to reach a box of milk, and Livia, distracted by her phone, didn't notice. A young man in the line behind us reached up and grabbed it for me. I thanked him. Grandma, hold it properly. You almost dropped it. I was just, never mind. Seriously, Grandma, you need to get more organized. This kind of thing looks bad. Looks bad. The phrase fell between us like a coin in a deep bowl. I laughed nervously. The young man crossed his arms. Livia went back to her phone. It cut me like paper, small, but sharp. Disrespect always begins in the diminutive. One night, I heard laughter in the hallway. Livia came in with friends. Steve, tall, expensive cologne, and a smile that never reached his eyes. Good evening, Mrs. Eileen. Good evening. You have a beautiful house. I have a beautiful story in it. He looked around the room, as if he were inspecting a storefront. Livia, did you think about the proposal? What proposal? I asked. Oh, Mrs. Eileen, just work stuff. Young people's business, he said with a wink. They went out for dinner. I stayed behind with my soup and my silverware. Around 11, I heard the door open. Livia came in, not noticing me sitting in the darkened living room. Did you like the restaurant? I asked. Grandma, you don't have to stay up waiting for me. I liked too. That's something moms do. And I was a little bit your mom, but you're not. It hurt. like an ingrown nail creeping toward the nerve. That sentence woke me up every morning for weeks. Then, envelopes started arriving with new logos, bank statements, printed emails, big words like shareholders, restructuring, extraordinary meeting. I didn't know what was so extraordinary about any of it. I only recognized the haste. Livia, your mother left very clear instructions about the company. Be careful with people who talk too loud. Grandma, I know what I'm doing. You're still learning, and you're still in the past. In the past lies your safety. In the past lives fear. She ended the conversation like someone closing a cabinet. I was left standing with my hand on the handle, on the outside. Love without doors can't keep thieves out. I made roast chicken, garlic, rice, and lemon salad, food that heals silent fights. I invited Livia to have dinner with me, just the two of us. Grandma, I'm on a diet. Diets accept chicken, sweetheart. Diets accept fewer lectures. That's what they accept. I lecture you because I love you. No, Grandma. You lecture me because you're afraid of losing me. I took a breath. Deborah used to say, I was afraid too. Did she say that to comfort you? She said it to remind me that courage has roots. Livia pushed her plate away. The courage I have today didn't fit into the life you planned for me. I went silent. Words are weapons. Silence is a trench. I didn't know yet that dinner would be the last of our peace. A month after her 26th birthday, Adam came by again. I just bring updates. Nothing to worry about. He talked about audits, everything in order, names, deadlines. When he left, he placed a folder on the table. May I asked. Of course. I read half a page and closed it. I'd already learned that too much paper attracts fear. Then, through the reflection in the glass, I saw Livia and Steve whispering in the hallway. That gets in the way, he muttered. We can work around it, she replied. Her grandmother has too. I entered the room, pretending not to notice. They smiled in that way that doesn't use the heart. Grandma, we're going out. Go with God. God doesn't sign contracts, Steve joked. Some laughs warn you that the deal is with something else. Saturday, I was going to the health clinic for my monthly injection. I needed Livia to drive me the neighborhood bus on market day as a battlefield. Livia, canoe, do me a favor. Not today. It'll be quick. I promised to look at some properties. Properties for what? Investment. And the house. The house is old. It wasn't about bricks. It was about us. That word old hit right where my name lives. The arguments grew, like those small leaks you ignore until they become a full-blown infiltration. Until, one Sunday afternoon, the water broke through the walls. Grandma, you have to understand the world has changed. The world changed its calendar, not its essence. Livia, I have a life to live. I know. And I have a life I've already lived, and it deserves respect. Respect isn't the same as imprisonment. I'm your home, not your cell. She stood up. Steve, in the corner, pretended to look at his phone. The window was open. The wind came in, but the air was heavy. Enough, she said. You've lived long enough, Grandma. Mom left me the world, not you. Silence. I heard a noise that didn't exist, a plate breaking inside me. Say that again, I said, my voice thin. I won't repeat it. Tomorrow at 9, someone's coming to see the house. I need you to be out, wherever you want. This house has clauses. My mother left me the responsibility to decide, and I've decided. Did you read the will? I asked, with the calm of someone holding a knife by the wrong end. I read my future. Steve finally looked up. Mrs. Eileen, you know how it is. The young need to breathe. You can breathe somewhere else, for a while. Can someone be pushed out of their own living room with a sentence? Yes. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wardrobe like it was a stranger. One chose a few blouses, a coat, my warmest socks. I took Deborah's blue note, the one kept by the fish magnet, and slipped it into my bag, between my undergarments, where secrets stay safe. When I closed the zipper, my fingers trembled so much that I had to breathe and count to 8, an old method I'd learned from an anxious student. Livia appeared in the doorway. The people are coming at 9. You'd better not be here. The house is mine for as long as I exist. Legally, no. Morally, yes. Moral high ground is an expensive word for a noisy neighborhood. Grandma, I learned that the worst humiliation isn't public. It's the one you sign with your own hand as you close the door from the outside. I left with 2 suitcases and a tote bag. My neighbor, Mrs. Nair, saw me at the gate. Mrs. Eileen, going on a trip. Just going for a walk. Take some bread. She shoved a bag into my hand. Bread changes the taste of crying. I gave a crooked smile. Thank you. Are you coming back? I'm a boomerang. Then don't take too long. I wanted to say, that's not up to me. But I held the words in, as if they were too hot to touch. Where does someone live when they've been kicked out of their own name? The boarding house had a flickering sign and smelled of disinfectant that couldn't quite erase the memory of cigarettes. The woman at reception was kind and didn't ask unnecessary questions. Single room, yes. How long? A few days. I left the suitcase by the bed, opened the window facing a courtyard full of bicycles, took off my shoes. The floor felt cold, or maybe I did. I sat down with Deborah's note in my hands and read it for the 1,000th time. Mom, if I'm ever gone, take care of my daughter the way you always took care of me. I love you. I did take care of her, Deborah, I said aloud. I did, but who takes care of us when we become the problem? That night, I dreamed of the cardboard Christmas tree, me and Deborah, gluing crooked stars, and Livia running around, her glow lighting up the room. I woke with a sob caught in my throat. I cried without sound, the way I learned to so no one else would wake. The phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Mrs. Eileen. This is accounting from Deborah's company. Sorry for the hour. We're reviewing some old information. Could you come by tomorrow? Tomorrow, where? He gave me the address. Hold music in the background. Voices, printers. It's important. I'll go. Some questions arrive with the promise of answers and others with the threat of them. The next day, I took a bus filled with tired men and women carrying market bags. I got off 2 blocks early, just to gather courage during the walk. Mrs. Eileen, the old accountant, Mr. Morrow, came toward me, glasses slipping down his nose. I handled your daughter's company for years. I remember. Please, sit. He opened folders, pulled out copies, pointed at names and dates. When Deborah passed away, she left, let's say, safeguards, a fund for you, clauses regarding the house, and a mechanism preventing any transactions without your consent. I know. The thing is, those documents don't appear in the final version of the will that was filed. What do you mean, they're gone? It took me a moment to understand. Mr. Morrow leaned forward and spoke quietly. There may have been tampering. That's a crime. It is, and you need to talk to someone who can take action. Mr. Adam, for instance. I left with a wrinkled copy in my bag and a new tremor in my knees, not from age, but from outrage. My granddaughter had thrown me out. Now, someone was trying to erase me from paper. Adam saw me the same day. Mrs. Eileen, come in. Doctor, Deborah's documents, some things are missing. He grew serious, motioned for silence, turned on a recorder. Start from the beginning. I told him everything. The cruel words, the eviction, the grocery store, the notes, the subtext, and now, the missing clauses. This doesn't disappear by accident, he said. If this is what I think, it's serious. He opened his system, checked records, compared signatures. The will was filed at Registry X. He frowned. But the original draft I wrote, this isn't it. What does that mean? It means the will that was recorded isn't the one your daughter signed. I felt my body sink into the chair. The wall clock seemed to tick louder. Doctor, did my granddaughter know? Adam looked over his glasses. Someone with access and interest knew, and interfered. I'll need your authorization to proceed. They tampered with my right to exist. Then we'll tamper with the right of whoever did. Humiliation turned into a police matter, and I, once invisible, became the key piece. At the boarding house, I folded my clothes like someone folding maps, turned on the TV for company. The news talked about a politician arrested for corruption. I laughed to myself. If the world steals big, why do the small thefts at home hurt so much? I recited the plan out loud, like a student preparing for an exam. Go back to the notary with Adam. Verify the signatures. Check suspicious transfers. Face Livia. That last task burned on my tongue. Facing my granddaughter meant facing my own creation, and admitting I had failed where I most tried to get it right. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to enter the room even when you know who's inside. I could have called. I could have texted. I could have written a letter. But I chose to look her in the eyes. Livia, I need to talk to you. Today, I'm busy. I know what they did to your mother's will. Silence on the other end. Then, her steady voice, come at 4. And come alone. Alone. I always had been. I just hadn't realized it. Sometimes, Justice begins on the other side of the table. I arrived at the gate right at 4. A man in a suit, someone I'd never seen before, greeted me with a plastic smile and asked, "May I help you? I am Livia's grandmother. She's in the office." "In my office," I corrected, and the polish of his smile cracked. I took a deep breath and tightened my grip on the blue note in my pocket. The door opened. With every step, I could feel Deborah walking beside me. I felt fear. I felt anger. I felt love, the most dangerous of the three when you've been pushed out of your own world. "You've lived long enough, Grandma. Mom left me the world, not you." It was with that sentence that my granddaughter threw me out. Now, it was my turn to bring the truth back inside. The boarding house has walls that seem to arrive before you do. Everything is narrow. The hallway, the bed, the chances. In the morning, I went downstairs for breakfast. A young woman with a backpack and her hair tied up was stirring sugar in a hurry. "You're the lady in room 12. "I am. My grandmother got kicked out of her house once too." "And did she go back?" "She bought another one." In her head, the girl gave a small smile. "Sometimes, we live wherever we can stand to." I took the bread Mrs. Nair had given me. Bread changes the taste of crying. It really does, but it doesn't change reality. The world outside always fits in other people's pockets until the day you realize you don't have any of your own. At the clinic, I sat on a plastic bench with other women who'd seen the calendar repeat itself until it got tired. The fan spun out of pity. The nurse called, "Eileen, yo, your blood pressure's 15/9. Have you been stressed lately?" "I've been stressed upon." "Try to rest. Rest is for those who have someone to go back to." She squeezed my hand, and I thanked her. In the hallway, 2 young women were laughing at videos on their phones. Life doesn't stop for anyone's pain. It's almost cruel, and that's exactly how it saves us. The city offers 1,000 corners. None of them are the one leading back to the house they took from me. I went back to the market again, this time alone. In line, a woman whispered, "She's the rich girl's grandmother, the ungrateful one." Another added, "They say the old lady caused trouble." Old lady landed on the back of my neck like a knife. "I didn't cause anything," I said quietly, mostly to myself. "My card didn't go through." The machine beeped loud, like a siren of shame. "Try again, please." "No balance." "What do you mean, no balance?" "No balance. Downward." I gathered my things. "Leave the milk." "Milk's heavy," said the cashier without looking up. "It is," I answered. "And it's missed." A man in line paid for the milk without saying a word. I wanted to thank him with words I no longer had. I nodded instead. When charity comes without humiliation, it's a miracle. When they take your home, they also take the sound dignity makes inside you. Mr. Adams scheduled a visit to the notary where the will had been filed. The building smelled of old paint. The clerks seemed in a hurry to leave before we even arrived. "Yes," the man at the counter asked, without looking up. "We're here to review a record," Adams said, showing the details. "Without a court order, we can't release a full copy. I'm the lawyer who drafted the original. The client is the direct beneficiary, and there's evidence of tampering." "Then, court order." "Who is the clerk who notarized this document?" Adam pressed. "It says here, Rubens C. Can I speak with him? He's on vacation." "Since when?" "Since yesterday." I laughed. I like absurdity when it admits what it is. "Can we at least check the entry for book so chansech page, so on so?" Adam pointed at the numbers. The clerk checked the system and hesitated. "The database is unstable today. It's down." "Down, or brought down?" I asked sweetly. The clerk pretended not to hear. Adam leaned against the counter, patient as lightning that had learned manners. "Please make a note of our request's protocol number." "No problem." When someone says the system's down, sometimes it's just decency that's been shut off. As we were leaving, a young woman caught up with me on the sidewalk. "Ma'am, are you Deborah's mother?" "I am." I was an intern when she came here the last time. "Sorry to intrude." "You're not." I remember her signing. But, on the day the final version was filed, the one who came was someone else, with your granddaughter. Someone else. A man. He spoke like someone in charge. I only saw him from afar. I remember the accent. He kept saying, "Get it done quickly." "What was his name?" "I didn't hear it." "Would you be willing to testify?" Adam asked. She looked around, bit her lip. "If I have to, yes, but I'm scared." "Scared of what?" I asked. "Of losing my job. Everyone here knows everyone." I wrote her name down in my notebook of rightful debts. "Thank you." Your daughter was kind, she said, and disappeared like someone returning a memory to its place. Someone had switched papers. Now life itself was beginning to switch sides. Back at the boarding house, I sat before the small mirror that barely fit my face. There was a loose thread on my coat. I pulled it. Age turns us into inventories. Each mark, an open account. I unfolded Deborah's blue note, worn at the corners. Mom, if I'm ever gone, take care of my daughter the way you always took care of me. I love you. I did, I repeated. But someone took care to erase my name from the path. Guilt is a short blanket. It can warm your chest or cover your head, never both. I made the call. What now, Grandma? I went to the notary. Why? Because one of your mother's clauses is missing. You're imagining things. I'm remembering. Grandma, I have a meeting. This topic exhausts me. Dignity exhausts less when it isn't yours. She sighed heavily. Don't make a scene. You always liked a stage. I always liked the truth. If you keep this up, I'll have to take action. What kind? Throw me out of somewhere else. Silence. Take care of your health, Grandma. I'll take care of the rest. The rest is what kills us slowly. When someone uses care as a verb of control, you learn to conjugate resistance. At the pharmacy, the clerk recognized me by sight. The generic went up. Everything goes up, dear. Except people's patience. Want to leave it for later? There is no later when the pressure's high. I swiped my card. It didn't go through. Counted money has no leftovers, only shortages. Can I put it on my tab? The manager appeared, smiling a little. Unfortunately, we don't do that anymore. You did for 20 years. Times have changed. Not the times, the people, I said, and left with half the medicine and twice the shame. Recent poverty has a specific taste, the taste of what once was yours. At the office, Adam placed the recorder on the table. I want to do this the right way, Eileen. Not out of revenge. Out of justice. Revenge is when you want the other person to suffer. I just want to get my place back. He opened the folder, the original draft of Deborah's will. Compare the signatures. I looked closely. My daughter's handwriting always had a big D that invaded the space of the E. In the registered version, the D was small, as if apologizing to the rest of the name. This isn't my daughter's handwriting. There's more, Adam said, turning the document. This page has a different weight. The paper isn't the same. And look, the stamp date is misaligned. Looks like it was double-pressed, and the notary, they'll claim a technical error until we can prove bad faith. For that, we need the physical record book, the chain of custody, the system log, and witnesses. I already have one, I said, remembering the intern. Excellent, we'll make her statement official. Paper doesn't bleed, but it stains, and stains tell stories. On the way back, I stopped by Mrs. Nair's house. I made cake. Cake heals less than bread, I teased. But it distracts, it does. I've heard people talking about your granddaughter. Let them talk. They say she's been seen with a dishonest man. Dishonesty is contagious, and the cure, it's called consequence. Mrs. Nair placed 2 more slices in my container. Go back home, Eileen. I will. Through the back door of justice. Neighbors always know what we don't tell, and invent the rest. Adam got an authorization for an in-person review of the physical book, with oversight. The notary couldn't deny it, so they did, in every way they could, with delay. In the back room, the thick registry book was brought in like a sacred relic. It smelled of dust and secrets. The Clarence signature. I read aloud. Deborah always drew a little flower at the end of her signature, a habit from school days. In this book, the flower was a rushed scribble that meant nothing. The initials at the bottom are different, Adam pointed out. And look at this, the page numbering -21, 02, 2024, where's 023? The clerk broke a sweat, a printing error, in a handwritten book. Adam smiled without showing teeth. Must have been filed in another volume, then I'd like to see it. It's not accessible. I'll file a report noting its absence, Adam said, and the man nearly tripped over his own haste. When a page is missing, it's because the story overflowed somewhere. It shouldn't. Livia asked to talk civilly. I went, a restaurant too fancy for someone born to bless iron pots. Grandma, you're crossing the line. The line crossed me first. I didn't touch any will. Then who did? The wind. You're losing your mind. You're letting opportunists manipulate you. I'm the one with interest here, interested in still existing on paper. Steve arrived late, smelling of expensive cologne, with the rush of someone who believes they own time. Mrs. Eileen, don't spread false accusations. That could cost you. I've already paid too high a price for every lie that's passed your lips. This is absurd. Livia raised her voice. People turned to look. I don't mind an audience when truth wants to walk out. Absurd are the mismatched dates, the missing pages, the changed paper stock, the intern who saw it, and the stamp that looked drunk from being pressed twice. Steve lost a second of breath. It was enough for me to know I'd hit the mark. They'll call you crazy, he said softly. And no one believes crazy old people. Then underestimate me again, but do it from the sidewalk. I stood up, returning, shame is an art. It doesn't pay much, but it pays. When someone calls you crazy, what they really want is to take away your credibility and your direction. Adam filed a formal report with the public prosecutor's office for property crimes. The receptionist stamped it with such force it sounded like she was sealing my breath onto the paper. The prosecutor listened with the calm of someone who already knows the geography of abuse. Do you have anyone in your family supporting you? My daughter's gone. And your granddaughter. That's why I'm here. She took notes on everything. The clerk's name, the dates, the missing page, the potential witness. We'll request the security footage from the day of the filing. There's footage. All those buildings have cameras. And if they don't, the absence speaks to. And my house. You have a lifetime right of residence. If we confirm tampering, everything will be restored. Until then, I'll file a protective order to prevent any sale or transfer. My body released a sigh I'd been holding since the day I was thrown out. Thank you. I'm just doing my job, she said. It's your life, after all. When the law opens the door, fear learns to wait outside. 2 nights later, there was a knock on my door. Who is it? It's me. It was Livia. Her face was bare, eyes red, hair tied up any which way. Can I come in? You can. She stood there, looking at my suitcase in the corner, the tiny mirror, the thin blanket. Grandma. I lost the ground under my feet. So did I. The bank froze. Some accounts, the prosecutor's office, did its job. I don't have anyone left. Her voice broke into sudden sobs. I let her cry. Mothers wipe tears. Grandmothers hold the silence a little longer. Grandma, forgive me. Forgiveness isn't an eraser. I was influenced. Influence doesn't turn into a signature without a hand. She looked at me like someone begging for a password they've forgotten. Grandma, I'm scared. So am I, but fear doesn't exempt us from the truth. When repentance arrives late, it comes barefoot and can't get through the door. I had a brown envelope on the table, copies of evidence, filings, official letters. I placed it in her hands. What's this proof? For me? For the police? I delivered it this morning. Her shoulders dropped. Grandma, why? Because I love you. And love that protects a lie kills slowly. She cried again. What's going to happen to me? Whatever's just, and justice, sometimes hurts. Mercy without truth is anesthesia. It wears off, and the pain comes back worse. The prosecutor summoned the intern from the notary's office. I found her in the hallway, twirling a pen between her fingers. Thank you for coming. I shake when I'm nervous. I shake when I'm alive. She gave a faint smile. Went in, came out 20 minutes later, pale. I told them everything. Are you sure? I am. Adam came out right after. She did great. She recognized Livia at the reception on the day of the filing and described a man matching the one we've been told is Steve, said the clerk. Rubens was on site, but the papers were delivered by a substitute, with the stamp already ready. A ready stamp. A stamp that arrives before the document. It means hurry and a setup. When haste is that great, crime trips over its own routine. The prosecutor's office coordinated with the bank. Unusual transfers, perfectly rounded sums that smelled of laundering, newly created companies with vague business purposes. This isn't my world, I told Adam, but they invaded yours. Then I'll invade it back. We got the injunction. The prosecutor called to say, the house can't be sold, rented, or used as collateral, and you, Mrs. Eileen, are reinstated as the lawful resident until the case is resolved. I can go back. You can. Today. The word today gave my knees back to me. I sat down so I wouldn't fall. Sometimes, justice comes with a delivery date. I went back with Adam. At the gate, a new security guard looked at me as if I were a visitor. Identification. I'm the owner of the life that lives here, I said, showing him the court order. He read it slowly, then opened the gate. The motor made the same sound I'd known since the day Deborah had it installed. In the living room, the pictures were crooked. My chair had been moved. Small things, but enough to make the house wear a different skin. I'm going to need a key. Do you have a copy? Adam asked. I left them all with her. From today on, you don't anymore. I went to the bedroom and took Deborah's note from my pocket. I placed it on the dresser, like a small shrine. A home is the place where you know how to find things in the dark. Livia arrived soon after. She walked in slowly, her eyes sweeping the floor. You came back. I did. The prosecutor's office, that's what this is. Yes. I didn't know it would go this far. Where did you think the lie would stop, my dear? She held on to the edge of the table. Steve said it was just adjusting documents, that you'd be fine, that everyone does it. Everyone the ones who have courage. That's not courage, that's cowardice, dressed up as progress. Grandma, I don't know how to fix this. We start by telling the truth. All of it. She sat down. For the first time, she seemed smaller inside herself. The beginning of making things right is admitting the size of the wrong. The next day, the prosecutor's office called us in for formalities, statements. I said what I always say when life sits me down in front of a recorder. My name is Eileen. I didn't come here asking for revenge. I came to reclaim my clean name. The prosecutor nodded. And that's exactly what we're going to do. On my way out, a reporter stopped me. Would you like to comment? I would, but not now. When I speak, I want it to include everyone who's ever been called crazy, old, dead weight, and pushed out of their own story. She wrote it down. I moved on. Public humiliation is loud. A clean name is silent and heavy. That night, I sat alone in the living room. Deborah's portrait watched me with patience. Did I fail? I asked the frame. You fought, answered the part of me that still knows how to comfort myself. The phone buzzed. It was the prosecutor. We got access to the footage from the day of the filing, and it shows your granddaughter and a man matching Steve's description, and also, Rubens, the clerk, were issuing subpoenas. I closed my eyes. The air in the room finally seemed to fit my lungs again. Truth has a face, and a name, and an appointment time. Before bed, I wrote in my notebook, injunction granted, witness intern, page 023 missing, misaligned stamp, security footage located, subpoenas in progress, and then I wrote one last line, one that hurt to fit on the page. My granddaughter lied for love of someone who doesn't love anyone. It hurt, but it belonged there. If a lie is a bridge, truth is a river, and only those who can swim make it across. At 2:14 a.m., the phone rang. I picked it up on the first ring, the way you do when you're used to expecting bad news. Mrs. Eileen. Yes, this is the airport. We need to confirm if you authorized the use of a property under your name as collateral for a fast-tracked visa request. What did you say? There's a request from Steve. He tried to use a document listing you as authorizer. I didn't authorize anything then. We'll need your written denial by email. You'll have it. Thank you. And sorry for the hour. I looked up at the ceiling. Escape. He was trying to run. When the thief runs, it's because the ground has started to talk. By morning, Adam already had the news. This directly links the attempted misuse of your house to Steve and Livia. We'll separate responsibilities. But today, the target is him. I wish it weren't true. Wishing doesn't change evidence. Evidence changes fate. I took a deep breath. The room smelled like coffee again. Doctor, when all this is over, I want my house to be a home for others. Others, older women, the ones expelled by their own. Deborah would approve. Deborah drew that idea before I did. Pain, when it finds purpose, changes its name. Late afternoon, the light hit the portraits, casting false golden frames along the wall. I touched the wooden table, felt the grooves. Deborah left while studying her contracts. The house finally breathed with me. The phone rang again. It was the prosecutor. Eileen, we've issued a search warrant for properties linked to Steve. There's evidence of a bribe paid to a notary employee. 30,000 was transferred into Rubens' account 3 days before the filing. A bribe. That's what it looks like. We're pursuing it. When money meets vanity, a signature becomes a weapon. But when truth meets proof, that weapon loses its trigger. The prosecutor now has a trail, names and dates, and I have what they never managed to take. Courage with a last name. The doorbell rang at 7 in the morning, with a sound that felt like a sentence being read aloud. The prosecutor arrived with 2 agents. Mrs. Eileen, we're here to collect documents. We need access to the office in the house. This way, I opened the door to the office where Deborah once dreamed of honest contracts. The agents photographed, sealed folders, tagged drawers, were looking for remote access points to the company system, flash drives, cards, and any references to Rubens, Steve, or the newly opened companies. The prosecutor explained. Companies for what? For nothing. Elastic business purpose. That's how money gets laundered. You just add soap to the company name. While they worked, my phone buzzed. Livia. Que y come over. I replied, come. When the law walks in through the front door, lies try to escape through the window, and always leave footprints on the sill. One of the agents found a thin envelope behind a cookbook. Inside, a flash drive. May we check it? Go ahead. Plugged in, an email opened. Steve gives Rubens a just, as agreed. The lifetime clause complicates the plan. Deliver the book ready. Deposit today. Plan. I asked, sharp. The plan was simple to get you out of the way, said the prosecutor, reading aloud. I'm not away. I'm a home. And a home with a strong door. She nodded. When a scheme signs with an initial, it already believes itself untouchable. Livia arrived pale, her eyes wide at the sight of seals, gloves, camera flashes. What is all this evidence? I said. Grandma, I thought, you thought arrogance was Amma. She looked at the prosecutor, stammered. Can I speak with you alone? You can. In the kitchen, I said, pointing. In the kitchen, the tile reflected a young woman, and the child still living inside her. Tell me everything, the prosecutor said. Livia took a breath. Steve said my grandmother's clause was holding things back, that the company needed oxygen, that everyone would do the same. And what did you sign? I didn't sign. I carried what? The papers, and the stamp. You knew. I tried not to know. I leaned on the counter. Cowardice had once again invented a new name and dressed itself up as progress. Anything else? Asked the prosecutor. Steve opened accounts, transferred money. He said it was to keep cash moving. The worst kind of confession is the one that tries to save its own image while only half delivering the truth. The prosecutor called me and Adam to the Financial Crimes Office. On the screen, a web of arrows, accounts, transfers, shell companies. Here, she pointed. 3 days before the will was filed, 30,000 landed in Rubens's account. The notary clerk, that same week, 4 transfers went out to front companies with fake partners, then circled back into a corporate card controlled by Steve. That's what I meant by the smell of soap, Adam remarked. And that's what the law calls bribery and laundering, the prosecutor added. I looked at the chart and saw my house being cleaned backward, dirty rags smearing the walls. And my granddaughter, I asked. She's cooperating. If she confirms her boyfriend's role as mastermind and intent to defraud, her sentence could be lighter. Justice doesn't bargain with character, I said. But it weighs conduct, the prosecutor replied. That's how the world stuffs accountability into the kitchens of life. Money always flows where gravity pulls, and sometimes gravity's name is greed. The summons was served. Rubens showed up with the dazed arrogance of a man who thinks a notary's desk is a throne. I never received money from anyone, and this, the prosecutor slid a statement across the table. 30,000. On the 12th, from Ravel Group, a company you opened 2 weeks before and closed 2 months later. His pen trembled. Consulting on how to skip page 023. Adam quipped. It was a mistake with a pre-stamped seal and misaligned date. The prosecutor pressed. Rubens, you have 2 choices, the truth or pretrial detention. He broke. It was the man, Steve. He brought the papers, told me to stamp them, said the girl knew, said it was just to speed things up. Signature, I asked. There was one, but it didn't match the draft, and you filed it anyway. I got paid not to see. That's what a bribe is. Money to fog the glasses. It was the first time I saw Steve up close. In the interview room he came in with an immaculate suit and a dirty soul. Name, the clerk. Steve Olenkar. Occupation, The prosecutor turned on the recorder. Do you know Livia, fiancé? Do you know Rubens? Never heard of him. Adam put the printed email on the table. S gives R, and this S. The prosecutor. NES, with your IP geolocated to your office, and during your work hours. He smiled sideways. Files can be forged, and bank statements, and hallway footage. And the intern's voice, he lost half a centimeter of stature in his own ego. I spoke for the first time. You came into my house in white gloves and dirty hands. Don't think the glove is forever. He didn't even look at me. Crazy old woman, he murmured. The prosecutor tapped the table, soft but firm. One more sign of disrespect and you'll leave in handcuffs. There's a moment when the villain realizes the suit's authority is gone and only the body remains. The next day, the prosecutor showed us screenshots, messages from Steve to Livia. Your grandma is attachment. Life is now. The lifetime clause is medieval. Sign it. No one checks details. I'll give you the world, but your grandma will chain you. And the lowest blow. If you love me, prove it. I felt disgust for the cheap trick and anger at its effectiveness. Is that how he trapped you? I asked Livia. He did. Then now you prove you love yourself. How? By standing without him. Manipulation always dresses up as romance, to invade someone's assets. Adam's team found the companies, Ravel, Nebula, S.Hold, Plata Malls, repeated addresses, empty offices, chairs without dust, and CNPJs with lots of movement and little substance. This was the laundry, Adam said in front of a closed door. And the soap is the corporate card. And the rag? I asked. Consultancies that never happened. Invoices with identical, generic descriptions. Risk analysis, procedural unblocking, due diligence express. I laughed in indignation. It's the new language of sleaze, he replied. Crime is lazy when it thinks it's brilliant. At 2 a.m, my phone rang. Airport again. He's here, the prosecutor said. Tried to board a flight to Lisbon using an expedited visa supported by property as collateral. Yours, I denied it. We know. Federal police have him. Do you want to be present? I want everything. Tomorrow we'll formalize the arrests in flagrante for attempted escape and proceed with a preventive detention request. I hung up in silence. God sometimes speaks with a big pen. Escape is confession with the passport. In the morning the headlines read, Consultant detained for will fraud and money laundering. Accomplice allegedly altered notary book. My name appeared at the end. 72-year-old woman allegedly expelled from her own home. I received messages from strangers. It happened to me. My daughter-in-law took my apartment. Tell your story, I replied to a few. Made coffee. Went to the garden to water the plants. Roots. Those don't change address by email. When humiliation becomes a headline, shame decides to change owners. With Steve in custody, they called Livia again, this time as a collaborator. We went in together. I brought evidence, she said, opening a folder. Screenshots of messages, audio files, passwords he'd given her, conversations about making grandma disappear from the flow. The doorbell rang at 7 a.m. with a sound that felt like a verdict. The prosecutor arrived with 2 agents. Mrs. Eileen, we're here to collect documents. We'll need access to the home office. This way I opened the door to the office, where Deborah once dreamed of honest deeds. The agents photographed, sealed folders, tagged drawers, were looking for remote access to the company system, flash drives, cards, and any reference to Rubens C., Steve, or the newly opened companies, the prosecutor said. Companies that do what? Nothing. Stretchy business purposes. That's how you launder money. You just wash the name on the registration. While they worked, my phone buzzed. Livia, can I come over? I replied, come. When the law enters through the front door, lies try to flee through the window, and always leave footprints on the sill. One of the agents found a thin envelope behind a cookbook. Inside, a flash drive. May we check it? Go ahead. Plugged in. An email appeared. Steve gives Rubens a just as agreed. The lifetime clause blocks the plan. Deliver the book ready. Deposit today. Plan? I asked sharply. The plan was simple. To get you out of the way, the prosecutor said. I'm not away. I'm a home, and a home with a strong door, she replied. When a scheme signs with an initial, it already thinks it's immune. Livia arrived pale, her eyes darting between seals, gloves, flashes. What is all this evidence? I said. Grandma, I thought arrogance was armor. She turned to the prosecutor. Can I talk to you? Alone, you can. In the kitchen, I said. In the kitchen, the tile reflected a young woman, and the child still hiding inside her. Tell me everything, said the prosecutor. Livia breathed in. Steve said my grandmother's clause was holding things back, that the company needed oxygen, that everyone would do the same. And what did you sign? I didn't sign. I'd carried. Carried what? The papers, and the stamp. You knew. I tried not to know. I leaned against the counter. Cowardice had invented a new name and called itself modernity. Anything else? The prosecutor asked. Steve opened accounts, transferred money. He said it was just circulating cash. The worst confession is the one that tries to save its own image while giving away only half the truth. Later, at Adam's office with the anti-money laundering team, the screen showed a web of arrows, accounts, transfers, shell companies. Here, the prosecutor pointed. 3 days before the will's registration, 30,000 entered Clerk Rubens C's account. That same week, 4 transfers went out to fake companies, then looped back to a corporate card controlled by Steve. That's what I meant by the smell of soap, Adam said. And that's what the law calls bribery and laundering, the prosecutor added. I looked at the chart and saw my house being cleaned backward, dirty rags, spreading stains. And my granddaughter? I asked. She's cooperating. If she confirms Steve's intent and direction. Her weight in the case lessens. Justice doesn't bargain with character, I said, but it considers conduct, the prosecutor answered. That's how the world hides responsibility inside the kitchens of life. Money flows wherever. Gravity pulls, and sometimes gravity's name is greed. The summons was served. Rubens arrived with the arrogant confusion of a man who thinks a notary's desk is a throne. I never received money from anyone. And this, the prosecutor slid a bank slip across the table. 30,000. On the 12th, from Rovell Group, a company you opened 2 weeks before and closed 2 months later. His pen trembled. Consulting on how to skip page 023. Adam asked. It was a mistake with a pre-stamped seal and misaligned date. The prosecutor pressed. Rubens, you have 2 choices, the truth or pretrial custody. He broke. It was the man. Steve. He brought the papers, told me to stamp them. Said the girl knew. Said it was to speed things up. Signature, I asked. There was one, but it didn't match the draft, and you filed it anyway. I got paid not to see. A bribe is just that money to fog the glasses. The prosecutor listened, wrote, and urged calm. Livia, do you understand what you did? I do. You know this could become an indictment against you too. If it's fair, I'll face it. I looked at her. Don't mistake endurance for learning. I want to learn, Grandma. Then start by giving back everything that isn't yours, including the story. Repentance begins only when someone returns not just the money, but the narrative. Under pressure, the notary cracked open its insides, system logs, access charts, the physical book, and because truth doesn't respect patchwork, page 023 appeared inside a so-called misfiled envelope. We found it, said the head notary, sweating. Found it, or returned it? The prosecutor asked sharply. On page 023 was Deborah's authentic signature, the small flower at the end, and the lifetime clause highlighted. That's it, I said, my legs shaking. We'll verify the binding ink and sequence, but at a glance, this is the page that would have stopped the fraud, Adam said. And why did it vanish? I asked. The notary stayed silent. Sometimes silence is a signature. Anything that appears in the wrong envelope has already confessed where it's been. 15 days later, the prosecutor filed charges. Steve, organized crime, money laundering, active bribery, forgery, fraud, attempted flight. Rubens, passive bribery, forgery, suppression of public documents. Livia, procedural fraud, and aiding with a cooperation plea, if effective. Adam called me. The judge accepted it. Injunction upheld. You remain the lawful resident, and the lifetime clause will likely be reinstated at trial. Reinstated, I repeated, savoring the word like an old song remembered. Justice isn't a show, but it has its acts, even from jail. Steve tried a trick, sent a message through his lawyer claiming to have money and names. The prosecutor laughed softly. Too late. The only thing left for him is remorse, and that's not his kind. I asked for a meeting with his lawyer waiting room. Doors apart, an empty hallway. Tell your client that no grandmother will ever again walk out that door with a suitcase because of him. And tell him this, if he speaks, I stay silent. If he stays silent, I'll speak loud and clear. The lawyer understood. Justice is also a language. Those who live by bluff die by receipt. I went back to Deborah's room and opened the drawer where she kept her letters. There was one I'd never seen. For Livia, when you turn 26. I read it. My daughter, if I'm not here, remember, money is a tool, not an identity. If anyone tells you paper can rewrite values, laugh and close the door. I'm leaving you assets to buy you time. I'm leaving you your grandmother to give you foundation. If you ever treat her as an obstacle, it's because whoever's beside you doesn't want you free. Mom, I sat on the bed. The letter was dated a year before she died. You tried, I whispered to Deborah. Now she listened. Even the beyond tries to educate the present. I spoke at the Council for the Elderly. The room was full. My name is Eileen. I was thrown out of my own home by my granddaughter, deceived by a man addicted to quick wealth. If you're hearing me and something like this happened to you, don't hide. Paper doesn't bite. A notary isn't God. Justice is a door that opens when you push with proof. People applauded. I cried quietly. Public catharsis stings, but it cleans. Shame changes sides when you tell your story before someone else does. That night, Livia came to see me. Without Steve, she seemed finally the size of herself. Grandma, I've decided to sell the car he gave me and return everything I took without realizing. Returning is the beginning. Next comes repair. How do I repair? By learning under supervision. Sign with Adam a term. No financial control until the case ends. And if you ever manage assets again, only under independent oversight. I agree. And, Livia, you'll meet the women who wrote to me. You'll listen. You'll help build what your mother imagined. You still want me around. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's a guarded road, she cried. I'll stay. Anyone who wants to start over must accept a guardian, especially of themselves. Adam brought a dark green folder, the Deborah Foundation Charter. Your daughter wrote this. She did, and stopped at the dreaming part. Let's finish it, he said. Purpose: support for elderly women expelled or abandoned by family. Services: legal aid, counseling, emergency housing, funding, company assets, donations, grants. I signed it like someone returning a name to its nickname. Deborah, your chair's been empty for 8 years. It's back. What didn't fit in life fits in the foundation's bylaws. The prosecutor called us to formalize Livia's agreement. The state proposes, if her cooperation remains effective and at least 60% of the diverted funds are recovered, will request suspension of prosecution with conditions, community work at the foundation, ethics courses, and a 5-year ban from managing assets. And if she breaks it, I asked, then everything falls apart. Then she won't, I said, holding my granddaughter's hand as if on a train track. I won't, she answered firmly. Justice isn't affection, but it gives deadlines for character to appear. That afternoon, I sat alone in the living room. The light crossed Deborah's portrait and landed on page 023, now kept in a transparent folder like a returned jewel. I rested my forehead against the wooden table. We did it, my daughter. I didn't win. I corrected, and sometimes, correcting takes more strength than winning. My phone buzzed. Mrs. Nair, I baked bread. Bread changes the taste of victory too. I smiled. Went to get it. The empire of lies collapses the day someone decides to audit the heart and stamp what's right. Steve is in prison. Ruben's indicted. Livia rebuilding what was lost. The lifetime clause breathes again. The expert unfolded the report like someone lifting a burial shroud. Here, Mrs. Eileen, court-ordered freezes completed, Steve's and the straw owner's accounts locked, the flows stopped, and my daughter's company, protected under temporary judicial management. No withdrawals, no diversion. Adam summed it up. Now it's the truth that breathes. The crime is the one holding its breath. When the water stops running, the dirt settles, and you can finally see the bottom. At the courthouse, a screen showed the list: penthouses, lots, luxury cars. The prosecutor pointed. All seized. Assets under third-party names too. The chain of links is proven. That's a lot of luxury for so little shame, I said. That's the standard, she replied. Luxury that doesn't pay taxes always collects interest from the soul. I went back home. The echo had returned. Without Steve's crew, without the fake laughter, the house finally seemed to have its own voice again. Sorry, house, I whispered. The filth came in through the wrong door. On the shelf, Deborah's photo frame stood straight. I adjusted it for the 5th time. It wasn't a portrait, it was a ritual. Every home has memories that only realign when lies are evicted. The prosecutor called a press conference. Cameras, microphones, curiosity. Mrs. Eileen, what would you say to other elderly women? That documents our shields. that a notary isn't an altar, and that family, without respect, becomes an organization, not the criminal kind, but the disorganized one that kills you from the inside. People scribbled notes. I trembled. Exposure is a kind of violence too, but I chose to speak. When you tell your own fall, you choose the height of your landing. Livia appeared at the kitchen door like she used to as a child. Can I come in? You can, Grandma. Forgive me. Forgiveness doesn't rebuild the wall you knocked down, it just lets you start again. I want to rebuild. I looked deep into her eyes. Then accept a moral injunction. What kind? No black credit cards, no assistance paid by me, no free passes, and work at the Deborah Foundation starting now. I accept. Forgiveness is a door, reparation is a step. We made new copies. I handed her one key and kept the other. House rules, I said. What are they? If you come in, say so. If you leave, turn off the light. If you make a mistake, admit it before bed. And if you have doubts, ask your memory. It answers better than Google. She smiled for the first time, without Steve around. The house began to relearn her name. Adam called. Steve's lawyer requested a hearing. Wants to talk. Talk. That's what they call it when no one answers to buy. Do you want to attend? I want to see the face of the man who called me a hysterical old woman. Conference room. Long table. The lawyer dressed in expensive words. My client isn't selling anything, I said before he opened his folder. We're willing to compensate. Compensation doesn't bring back what's gone. We could avoid further exposure. Exposure's what I lost when they threw me out. Now let the light in. Bargaining doesn't belong in a house that's finally clean. In the hallway, I crossed paths with Rubens. No suit, no armor. Mrs. Eileen Rubens, I made a mistake. How much was your mistake worth? He looked down. Do you think? I think anyone who stamps a lie steals a dictionary. He cried without tears. Economic remorse. Some people ask for forgiveness, like they're handing out discount coupons. The bank manager arrived. Post your penitential. Mrs. Eileen, we're revising our credit and installment policies for seniors. About time. We'd like to offer a special line. I want respect. The rest is a byproduct. She wrote it down. On my way out, I bought my medicine without looking at the ceiling. Those who once refused credit now pay interest in shame. I invited the foundation crew for a gesture. We demolished the Steve meeting room, that glass-topped table, and built-in arrogance he had set up inside my house. Here we talk in the kitchen, I said, with bread and truth. 4 older women laughed. One of them, with a pink cane, said, a glass table only works for people with no past. Home has its own kind of poetic justice. We opened Deborah's cupboard and found planners. Nelson Rodriguez said every family has a closet full of skeletons. We had planners full of shelter plans. Look at this. I showed Livia temporary residence for older women. She wanted what we're doing now. Without Steve, without shortcuts, without lies. When the dead's plan matches the living's step, guilt finally fits into the past. An email arrived from Steve's lawyer. Final proposal, confidentiality agreement, full payment, public retraction. I replied with one word, no. Adam called. Are you sure? I have a story. I don't trade silence. That no is the most expensive yes I ever paid for. They invited me to speak on a local radio show. The host asked, what was the worst moment? The door slamming behind me. Because there I didn't just lose a roof, I lost a surname. And the best, finding page 023 again, because there I reclaimed my certificate of existence. The station line blew up. Women called crying. Sons apologized on air. I breathed deep so I wouldn't turn to salt. When a town listens, a house grows. Livia came back, this time with paper and pen. I wrote, she said, handing me a letter. Grandma, I don't deserve your last name, but I want to learn to deserve it. I take my share of responsibility. I return what I took without seeing, and I place myself under the foundation statute. If one day I forget who I am now, remind me I was the granddaughter who put you out on the street, and you brought me back through the door of truth. I read it in silence. Sin, I already signed, then read it to me. She read, her voice breaking in all the right places. Forgiveness enters through the ears when the mouth knows what it's saying. The prosecutor asked if I wanted to attend Steve's hearing. I do. Gray corridor, hard chair, weighty words. He walked in handcuffs, shrunken ego in tow. Do you have anything to add? The detective asked. I am being unjustly accused, and the messages, emails, bank statements, videos, fabrication, and the attempted escape, business trip. I asked to speak. When you called me a hysterical old woman, you got half right. I am old. And my hysteria is the hysteria of someone who discovered you tried to steal an entire life with a few clicks. See if your English has a word for shame. He averted his eyes. The hearing is over, the detective said. Crime speaks another language until its translator is called evidence. The seizure order came through. Key properties seized. Steve's sports car auctioned in 40 days. That goes to the foundation fund, Adam said. Deborah would like that fate. She would. That week I signed more papers than I had in years. My hand ached, my conscience did not. Paper now flows in our favor. On the eve of my final testimony, I called Livia into the living room. Sit. I'm sitting. Even with cooperation, there are consequences. You will be removed from company management indefinitely. You'll study ethics and finance for 2 years, and you'll return, if you return, only with an outside audit. Do you accept? She breathed, eyes watering. I accept. And more. You will look each woman in the eye who comes for help. All of them. You will learn their names. You will carry bags, serve coffee, clean the table. I will. Because humility is the only bank that never closes. Love without discipline breeds monsters with surnames. That day, I wore the outfit Deborah always said made me look like the principal of a good school. I stepped into the room. Recorder on. Full name, Eileen Moore. Described the events. I told everything without decoration. The night at the hospital, the clause, the eviction, the boarding house, the blue note, the notary, the intern, page 023, the email from S. Rubens's deposit, the escape, the airport, the federal police, the press conference, the foundation. When I finished, the prosecutor closed the folder. Thank you. You've just signed the end of a fraud. Those who lived to tell now tell to keep living. On my way out, an older woman waited with a cake wrapped in cloths. I heard you on the radio. My daughter-in-law tried to take my house. And did she succeed? For 2 days. Then I did. We laughed. Eat its cornmeal cake with dignity. I took it home, ate it with coffee, called Mrs. Nair. Today the bread tastes like we made it. The flavor of justice is simple: flour, water, and courage. At dusk I sat in the garden. The wind moved through the leaves like it was rearranging the shelves of the air. I went inside, passed through the living room, now without the glass table, and stopped at the dresser. Page 023 beside the blue note. I picked up a pen and wrote a note to myself. I didn't take revenge, I corrected, and in correcting I taught. The phone rang. The prosecutor. Eileen, the evidentiary hearing is scheduled. Asset recovery should begin next quarter. And the foundation has been approved. So now the house has a charter and a surname. I closed the window. Night arrived, smelling like the future. Livia stood in the kitchen doorway holding 2 mugs, coffee, with bread. With bread. We sat down, and for the first time since that cruel sentence, I heard my house say again what it had always said: you belong. The envelope bore the city's crest and a formal invitation. We invite Eileen Moore to reassume the board of the Deborah Foundation, now restructured to serve elderly women in situations of vulnerability. I read it 3 times, running my hand over the paper like smoothing an old dress. Will you accept? Adam asked. I never left, I answered. They were just keeping my seat warm. Some chairs aren't empty. They wait. The address led to a modest warehouse with tall windows and the echo of promises. We entered. Me, Adam, the prosecutor, Mrs. Nair, the team, and Livia with a notepad. This will be House 023, I announced, because of the page. The prosecutor smiled, because of what they tried to erase, and couldn't. I'll handle the layout, Livia said carefully. With the team, I corrected. No one here commands alone. When a name becomes a number, it gains the memory of stone. On the whiteboard, I wrote, Key 1, a safe room. Key 2, a table with bread. Key 3, paper that protects. We call it the 3 keys, I explained. To sleep, to eat, to exist. A volunteer architect, hair tied up and the gentleness of someone who doesn't step on others' feelings, measured the walls. We can make 5 suites, a counseling room, and a large kitchen. The kitchen needs a window, I warned. Home air comes through the food. Dignity begins where the smell is garlic sizzling in oil. She arrived one late afternoon with a light bag and a heavy silence. Dora, 78, expelled by a grandson too eager for inheritance. I don't want to be a burden. Then you've come to the right place, I replied. Those who don't want to be a burden are usually the ones who carried everything. Can I stay one night? You can stay for as long as healing takes. Livia brought her tea. Dora, hesitant, took a sip. What's it made of? Welcome. Dora laughed, a short laugh. Her first. Never had that one before. The first laugh of someone who's been cast out sounds like a door opening. We formed a circle. Me, 20 volunteers, 6 stories. My son-in-law took me off his health plan. One woman said, "My daughter told me I've lived long enough," said another. I took a deep breath. I've heard that one too, I confessed. And now I answer. Enough is what I decide. Livia wrote, every word, no longer hiding behind her hair. Sometimes, the most useful penance is active listening. The ear is the first brick of any home. The City Hall issued a notice. House 023 shelter, legal aid, and emergency housing. The line at the gate was modest, but steady. Is there a ticket? A man asked, holding his mother's arm. There is, I said. Respect and coffee. Mrs. Nair organized donations, sheets, pillows, pans, and bread. She kept saying, bread changes the taste of the day. When a city learns a new word, it's called ours. One afternoon, I found Livia crying in the laundry room, a sheet in her hands. I've never washed so much guilt, she whispered. Guilt doesn't rinse out, it washes off in actions. I know, that's why I am here, Livia. You don't have to be someone else. You just have to be the person you promised in that letter. She nodded, wiping her face. I promised to deserve the name. The greatest renovation happens in the bathroom of the soul. The auction receipt arrived for Steve's sports car. I smiled. We're buying a van, I announced. It'll be called Deborah 1, and the license plate. The architect asked. 023 Life. We laughed. The van arrived weeks later, white, simple, perfect. This one, I said, resting my hand on the hood. This one carries stories. When ostentation turns into a vehicle for good, the world aligns itself. We turned Steve's meeting room into a library, wooden shelves, donated books, a solid table. I want workshops on elder rights, household finance, and contracts, I listed. And basic computer skills, Livia added. My generation stole too many passwords from grandmothers who couldn't use a phone. Then you'll teach the class. The room where fraud was born became a place of strong passwords. The opening ceremony was simple. They printed my name on a banner that felt far too big. The place was full. The air smelled of cake, and eyes shone. I stepped up on the small platform. My name is Eileen Moore. My story isn't pretty. It's made of eviction, fraud, and shame. But shame didn't stay with me. I returned it to its rightful address. The lie, silence, deep as church air. I went on. Here we work with 3 things: bread, paper, and word. Bread because a hungry body can't learn. Paper because without documents, a person disappears. And word because those who tell their story prevent others from rewriting it. The name of this house is 023, the number of a page they tried to erase from a book to erase me. We found it, and today, we return pages to those who were cut out of their own. Applause. I cried without shame. 3 generations of women. My mother taught me to survive. I taught Deborah to build. And Deborah through her absence taught me to repair. I had to lose everything to understand my worth. Now, with all of you, I've found the worth of us all. The city breathed together, and the air came in like someone coming home. Then came the civil ruling, reinstatement of the life clause, annulment of the falsified record, confirmation of my right to stay, and moral damages for expulsion. Adam read aloud. The court recognizes the deliberate suppression of page 023 and the attempt to violate the lifetime housing clause. Translation. I asked. Translation. You exist on paper. I always did. I smiled. They're just learning to read. The pen that once erased me now writes me back with interest. A hurried woman arrived, phone in hand, posture of someone running from her own life. Bianca, 34, wanted to leave her grandmother with us for a few days, as if leaving a plant for watering. I said gently. I'm just exhausted. So is she, I replied. I called Bianca into the workshop room, showed her affection statements and neglect invoices. House 023 is a bridge, not a storage room. Bianca cried, volunteered, and came back the next week with her grandmother to help. Sometimes the right granddaughter arrives late, but she arrives. Livia suggested a right of repair. 3 steps: admit, return, serve. And the 4th, I asked, to silence your own defense when it's time to listen. We adopted it. Families and elders went through the rite. Some came back, some didn't. Not every bridge can hold every car, I said after a hard case. But those who cross learn the way, Livia replied. Forgiveness has a manual, but never a shortcut. At the end of a long day, I looked in the mirror. A tired, whole woman stared back. Deborah, I did it. On the nightstand, the blue note and page 023, side by side. I lit the lamp. You left assets to give me time, and you left me to give foundation. It took me a while to understand I was the missing clause. I tapped the glass frame, as if calling a bird to the window. Thank you for teaching me to repair. Sometimes the most honest dialogue is with someone who no longer needs to answer. A restitution check arrived, a recovered portion of the laundered funds. Half goes to House 023, half to free legal aid for urgent elderly cases, I proposed, and a scholarship for caregiver training, Livia added. Approved. Money that once tried to buy silence now buys voice. Dozens of letters arrived, from neighborhoods I couldn't place on a map. I was old until I heard you. Now I'm mothering myself. I found my page 023 MY lease contract. My grandson asked for forgiveness. Mrs. Nair, moved, brought me a notebook. Write it all down, Eileen. Memory can't live only in the heart. It'll become a registry book, I replied. And with numbered pages, no skips. Memory without a page becomes rumor. Memory with a page becomes legacy. The criminal trial advanced. Steve tried to look at me, couldn't. Rubens stared at the floor. The prosecutor was precise. Adam, surgical. The judge issued new measures leading toward conviction, maintaining all cautions. No spectacle, just order. I left the courthouse and went straight to the center. Dora was brewing coffee. Well, Mrs. Eileen. Justice made the sound of a steady step. Not every victory comes with fireworks. Some come with boiling water. In House 023's kitchen, I sat with 3, me, Livia, and Dora. What do we toast with? Dora asked. With bread, I said. And with words, Livia added. I want to say something. Say it. Grandma, I'm not the sentence, I said. I was that sentence. Now I want to be the answer you gave me. I hugged her, firm, but remembering that hugs don't erase contracts. Then repeat, I owe you respect, and I promise you truth. Signed. The right signature is the one that rewrites the next chapter. The Deborah 1 van rolled out for the first time, picked up 2 elderly women in the industrial district, and took one to the hospital. On the way back, it stopped at the bakery. If we're rescuing, we rescue with bread, joked the volunteer driver. On the sidewalk, I saw the city looking at us, not with pity, but partnership. Now you exist, said the baker. We always did, I replied. Now we're on record. When a society trades poor thing for partner, history turns itself right side up. That night, I put on Deborah's coat. It still fits, though I've shrunk a little inside. I looked in the mirror, adjusted my necklace, and spoke to myself. Eileen, you crossed from boarding house to foundation, from slammed door to open stage, from silence to word. You're not the woman who lost her home. You're the woman who built a bigger one. I turned off the light. The window breathed with me. Before sleeping, I wrote one last note and left it beside page 023. There were 3 generations of women. I had to lose everything to understand my worth. Now, when another woman arrives here with nothing, she'll find the rest and leave with a name, an address, and a numbered page. I fell asleep to my favorite sound, a house that belongs. Truth didn't give me back time, it gave me meaning. And meaning, sometimes, is worth more than everything combined. The foundation is open. Justice runs its course. Livia is living her repair. And I, Eileen, am back in my place, guarding the door so that no grandmother is ever pushed out of her own story again. And now, tell me in the comments, what do you think about my story? I want to thank this channel, Buried by Family, for allowing me to share this part of my life with you. This channel needs your support to keep bringing more stories like this one. So, like this video, and click the subscribe button. That way, other women will also be able to share their truths here. On the screen, there's another video you might like, and the icon to subscribe to the